Hey, everybody. Today we're talking about conflict in narrative. So, conflict is what your characters come up against in the story that prevents them from taking steps to reach their goals. Um, their goal might be their ultimate goal, which is realized at the end of the story, or small goals along the way in their travels as they test their ideologies, and these conflicts are things that force them to test their ideology, so that eventually they'll cast off their old ideology and embrace the ideology of the central dramatic argument. So let's look at conflict. So what you want to do as an author is design your conflict from maximum pain. You're the creator of this world. You create the characters, you create the world, and you create the situations that the characters are going to be faced with. While yes, you are going to follow your characters on a journey, you also need to plant the seeds of conflict that are going to sprout up for them to face along the way. So we want you to test your character's will in some way multiple times, so that by the time they reach the end, they have a clear understanding of what's right and what's wrong, what's true and what's false, so that they can embody that final truth at the end of the story. And obviously, characters are a big part of why we care about story. If we relate to the characters, then we relate to their victories and their losses. So a character overcoming obstacles in a story is why we care about the story in the first place. What we do is we see ourselves as that character, we see ourselves in that situation, and we think about what we might do differently or what we might do similarly, depending on the story. So the conflict should be designed and specifically related to the central dramatic argument. So let's look at Iron Man, the first Iron Man movie. So the central dramatic argument of Iron Man, is you have to face the demons of your past in order to become, the hero that you're meant to be. So in Iron Man, Tony Stark is living out a life that has been sort of programmed for him, right? He's his father's son. His father created a weapons manufacturing company. Tony Stark is carrying on that legacy. Then he's captured by terrorists who are using the weapons that his father's company has created. They've been sold these weapons by the man running his father's company. So Tony then designs a new weapon and fights his way out, and then uses that fully realized version of the Iron Man armor to fight evil and to get revenge on those who are using his weapons for evil. But at the end, his weapon is turned against him by the man who has fulfilled the role of father for Tony, Obadiah Stane. So Tony has to kill Obadiah Stane, his father figure, and then completely give up weapons manufacturing in order to atone for all the destruction and misery caused by his father's company, by his family, and by the people that he surrounded himself with. His change at the end is based on the suffering that he went through, not just physically, but emotionally and psychologically. And so it's the rational change that comes from the psychological and emotional suffering that he went through in that film. So you can set up your conflict to really strike at the core of your character's beliefs about themselves and beliefs about the world. And irony is the most delicious form of conflict and pain that you can impose upon your characters. The conflict you devise should reinforce the fear a character has about themselves, the fears that they have about the world, and prevent them from getting closer to the truth of the central dramatic argument. Let's look at a couple of examples of irony. So a brilliant surgeon who believes himself to be God's gift to surgery. He's in a horrible accident, and that accident takes away the use of his hands. So he's now, disabled in the only way that really means something to him, right? And that crushes his identity. It sends him into this tumult where he no longer knows who he is. He can't be himself anymore because he no longer has the thing that that makes him the person that he is, that makes him the best at what he does. Here's another form of irony. Oops, sorry. A young man wishes for and is also granted great wealth, vast wealth, so that he may marry a princess, only to discover the princess is repulsed by wealthy men. So this is Aladdin, basically, right? The street rat wishes for great wealth because he wants to impress Princess Jasmine. And then he gets it, and she's super grossed out. Irony, right? You get what you want in the moment, but end up not getting what you need at the end. And so these examples of irony are that much more satisfying because we understand the idea of wanting something now, or losing something now, and that not being necessarily the thing that we need long term, right? It's not going to get us what we want in the big things that we want. It's one of our desires, but it's not the thing that we need in the end. And then if we look at sort of how to think about knocking your characters back, at the beginning of a story, your character is happy in their life, even though it's flawed, even though they're living a lie, basically. And so you, as the god of story, you jar them out of their stasis, right? You give them a boot, and they have to, look at the world from a different position. They're knocked out of their happy hole. Then your character thinks maybe they have an easy solution to that conflict, that first conflict that they're given, and this will let them get back to their rut. And as soon as they are ready to execute this plan, you pull the rug out from under them and show them that there's no going back. Okay, so maybe they make some choices and they get to a certain point and they feel like, okay, I can do this, and it's like I can do it safely, and I won't be wounded physically or emotionally. And of course, you should wound them in some way or take away what they love. So this drives the character, further down that emotional path. They get to a point where it seems like all is lost. And at that point, you should hit them one more time, drop one last piano on them, and force them to expel that false ideology, force the catharsis out of your character through constantly testing their core beliefs with the conflict that you present them. And then only when they finally submit to the truth of the central dramatic argument, you reward them, right? You give them not the thing that they want, but the thing that they needed, that maybe they didn't even realize. And that's conflict. So for today's lesson, we're going to look at those same stories maybe that you've been working on for the other analyses, and I want you to analyze the story for conflict. So that's what you'll be doing in today's assignment on Schoology, and I hope you have fun doing it. All right, I'll see some of you later.